welcome one, welcome all. Man, that was my bad. I don't know what happened. I clicked the button and it was like, yeah, we're not doing that.
I like the German Shepherd looking look you get every time it doesn't work, though. You're like,
Huh? Because it was like, click. Why isn't it going? Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Other Side of the Ball, show number 144. I wish I had something nice to say about the 144.
That's a 12-pack of 12-packs.
Oh, yeah. Damn. Okay. 12-pack of 12-packs. There we go. So if you really want to get effed up, let us know.
It's the Corey Hammond, Scott Hamilton fusion. It's 12 squared.
Oh, there
That's
you go.
right.
Yeah.
Which is gross.
Or could be gross.
No, 144 is also considered a gross.
Oh, true. Yeah.
Me and Scott are not necessarily everybody's favorite cup of tea when it comes to just pure visuals either. So I guess fair. Gross.
You have your moments there, Corey.
You know, Corey, I disagree with
gross
you because
moments?
I understand what you're saying about everybody's cup of tea, but you are married. Scott is married. So obviously there are people that really you are their cup of tea.
Is person, and that's all that counts.
That is all that counts. And you got kids, so there's even more people.
And a lot of them look like my wife, so they got that going for them.
I wish I could say the same. My girls are damned.
I didn't get a chance to check in fully. How did the game go this weekend?
Oh, the football game, the championship game was a very interesting game. The game itself went well without the little technical issues that we did have, but overall the game itself went very well. We didn't know that there's so much construction going on at Clark, so there's a lot of stuff we didn't have because they were totally tearing down the a bunch of the stuff at the field and also redoing their booth.
We finally know the answer to the question. The answer is construction. When the question is turned down for what?
There you go. Yeah, the construction was a crappy thing. It's kind of scary too when you know you're going to be running a night game and the first thing out of the guy that is that's there unlocking everything for you, going, dude, I don't know if the lights work. We didn't know you're going to need them.
Just get the headlights.
Yeah, well, trust me when I say it would have almost come down to that because we were there at 6:30 and I'm like, okay, we got about an hour. Maybe you could go turn them on and see if they work. And he's like, well, I'll go turn on the scoreboard first and make sure we have that. I'm like, all right. So yeah, it was an interesting day. But the football was good. The game was really good. It had its highs and lows, but you could also see, Corey, like you did with a lot of the guys that came out here from the East Coast and played in the heat. A lot of cramping, a lot of guys going down later in the game with cramps and a lot of dehydration on the sidelines.
Yeah, well, who ended up winning the game? I'm just looking for that update too.
It would have been the Tacoma team, and right now, just give me a second. I'll remember their nickname because it was
the Beach City Giants.
Yeah, Beach City Giants was the team from Cali that they played, and right now I'm trying to remember the Knights.
The other were the Knights.
Yeah. So the Knights won. It was their second, so they won back-to-back championships.
Nice. So the coach we had on got the other side of the ball bump.
That's right.
He did, and interestingly enough, he said, "You guys got to watch my quarterback," and the quarterback by far was the best player on the field.
Well, next call is to get the old Oregon Trail, Washington, Tacoma area division going, and then we can completely convert them into A7 guys.
Interestingly enough, the gentleman that put on this, that booked everything and put it on, wants to start. He said, "Oh, I'd love to get a team in the A7FL." I said, "How about a division?"
Yeah.
Was that Mario?
No, that wouldn't be a bad idea. Yeah, I believe it was Mario.
Yeah, that's our connection. Dude is connected. He's good friends with Sherm. So that's how the whole thing came to pass. I've been trying to connect with Dude for like 4 years now because he's a big football guy in the West, and I think he needs to have a division in the A7FL. I've been pushing for quite some time. We finally connected, obviously, and put this thing together. So at least he's worried about on that front. So we'll see how that goes.
I would love to see the Vegas division get there like Baltimore. You know what I mean? If there was
We
a
had it.
place, I
We
know
had
you
LA,
did.
man. And
Yeah, and listen, Santa Monica Vibe. They had the pants of the league. Billy Mallard is always a great football player. Anytime I've seen him.
yeah, but he's 4 years older now.
Well, I mean, the thing is the division itself is a shame because if you're telling me, and I'll sound like a Vegas homer now, if you're telling me that one city in a relatively unpopulated state,
Right?
I mean, it is one of the larger cities by like actual square footage.
Square miles.
Yeah,
Same,
square
same,
footage is a more
same shit.
exaggerated looking number when you do a square footage.
Yeah.
True.
I'm also a contractor guy, so I'm everything square footage. But speaking of construction, but listen, if there's a way to get, whether it's in California, whether it's in Arizona, whether it's even the most northwestern states that aren't Alaska, or I guess Russia is coming in soon.
Well, you also got to
Oh
think
no,
about
Greenland.
Hawaii.
I'm sorry.
Got to think about Hawaii. Don't leave them out.
Well, they're like west, not northwest. But anyway, if you guys could get that other division, I think that would be a huge benefit to everybody in the league, because it would really create a little bit more parity and a lot more intrigue, because then you get those rivalries that are kind of like coastal. And we're always gearing up to try to figure out how do we get east west during the regular season and earlier playoffs. But if there was just more west teams, I think that would be less of a mandatory demand and more of a luxury that we could figure out if expansion continues.
Man,
But
they
anyway,
still bitch about it. But anyway, so we are virtually guaranteed a LA division, or at least an LA team next season. Murphy and the Accelerators are gung-ho to have their stuff together. The coaches that we assembled last year said they just didn't have enough time to assemble last year to do teams last year. So all four of those guys are supposedly working on teams for this coming season, but I know Murphy and the Accelerators are coming for sure, and the Regulators look to be coming for sure. So,
well, when Vegas gets their Baltimore at this moment is completely up in the air. We'll see how that division turns out, because there could be one team, there could be 6 teams. It's going to be a fun off season.
yeah, I remember that one year when Baltimore was the representative of the Northeast. That was Vegas's first championship year. That was surprising.
That was the same year that Baltimore started the season off by saying that they were going to sit out in protest.
Oh, that's right, because Baltimore ain't got no value.
There's a long story to it, and I get in trouble enough for trying to do my Baltimore accents, but I will stick with the theme of my character from The Wire, McNulty, and I will narc them out whenever possible.
I love it.
So I hit up the old Messenger thread and proposed we discuss a very fun topic, and all of us being mostly offensive players. I know, Derek, you played a little defense yourself, and Chris, you're no stranger to covering if you have to.
No,
But
not at all.
offensive player of the year in
My nephew.
2025.
Sorry, what's up, nephew?
He wants out of my arms. All right, guys, I'm gonna let you do this thing. I'll come back on if I can.
Okay, you got to go do daddy duty.
Later.
Sorry, man. I love my nephew. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
Offensive player of the year.
And like I said when you put it in the chat, I think there could be a great debate about this, because I think that we've got a couple of players that in my eyes, earned that moniker for this year. There's in my eyes anyway. You when you look at the offensive player of the year, we can talk about quarterbacks, we can talk about wide receivers, and there's some really damn good quarterbacks and wide receivers in the league that we can look at, and you can also look at some of the running backs as well. But I think this year in particular, and please, if you don't agree with me, I know you'll let me know, but let me know your thoughts on this. In my eyes, specifically this year, the wide receivers outshined the running backs.
Oh yeah, there's no question. I mean, some of the leading rushers in the league were Sterry Codrington and David Tender,
Exactly.
respectively. I think they were, and I may be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that they were 1 and 2 when Cole sent us that list. And I'm
that wouldn't surprise me at all. That makes a lot of sense. What's up, Cool Case?
I think just to fill out the show, because if we went, what's going on, gentlemen? And then there he is.
Offensive KK. Who's he referring to?
Kason Campbell.
We'll get to him. Okay.
We'll get to him. But I think
let's go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well,
don't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
Because if we just start with our picks for the award, we're going to struggle to fill the time. So let's start regionally on some standouts in each division and like break it down, like who you thought was some of the candidates. And then we can kind of like wheedle them down as we get towards the end of the show. And we could start locally for this show. Who were among the standouts for Offensive Player of the Year from the Vegas side of the A7FL?
So I would have to give you a little bit of a list. So we talked a little bit about these guys last week. Right off the top of my head, one of the ones that I would look at is going to be for sure Stone King, his wide receiver Richardson. I'm going to have to go, excuse me. This is the one year that I'm really having not a hard time, because there's so many of the guys from from the Insomniacs that they spread the ball out a little bit more this year. So you didn't have a Davik standing out as much as he usually does, or a Munch standing out as much as he does. But I would have to put Munch in there for what he did pretty much all season. I can't overlook Darren Palmer for sure. I've got to put, that's the tier one. Tier two would have to drop down, and I think I'd have to look at like a Derek Knight, because of what he was able to do with his team, being
Gold, right? The wide receiver from the Gold.
Yep. So I mean, those are the players that I can think of that kind of stand out. Who else would you have?
Well, and I think the first thing to mention from your list, because I agree, is that the running back position in the A7FL has become, it's almost mirrored what the NFL has done, because it's really a by committee position in general now.
Yep.
The other thing you mentioned is that although we look at like the actual raw statistics, there aren't as many Insomniacs that stand out. That is a symptom of what, the air quotes stacked roster, or air quotes, and I'm not making this claim, but like the super team type of construction. Now but
hold on, Corey. The only thing that I'd have to disagree with you there would be the fact of I would also have to put Scott Hamilton on that list.
I was going to go because we didn't mention Scott, and then when you look at the raw data, other than Sterry Codrington, who also, when we talk about his offensive numbers eventually, he played a full 10 games that were recorded and games of the week, so we have all of the statistics. Scott Hamilton, we only have 7 games, but he was second or third in both yards and touchdowns respectively, and where Sterry Codrington threw 0 interceptions all season, Scott wasn't that far behind him. Now, the 3 in the championship game stand out, but before the championship game, I'm pretty sure he entered the championship game with only 1 or 2 interceptions all season. And when you look at Scott's numbers, I think there was a game or two, not unlike myself. I missed 1 game, But Scott did miss a game, I think, in the middle to late in the regular season. But even, not fully 100% against the Animals, he set an A7FL record for touchdown passes in a single game. So I think, among the standouts, which you listed all of them but Scott, I think there's Scott Hamilton to talk about. The fact that the Insomniacs are so deep that, Davitt Clark and Eric Schuford are, not worse players, but by statistics, we're really even halfway to the yardage that even Siobhan Richardson from Sickwood had. And to be clear, I don't think any running back kind of stepped up and was head and shoulders better as an offensive just statistical performer than any of the other guys that we mentioned at the quarterback and wide receiver positions, respectively.
Well, and I think there's something to that, but like I said, and my apologies for overlooking Scott because I shouldn't have. I knew that
No,
he.
you set me up perfect because I wanted to talk.
Yeah,
It worked perfectly.
he was. I know that he got. Did he tie the record or did he break the record for most touchdowns in a game?
In a game, he actually broke the record.
There you go.
And
Thank
not
you.
only in a playoff game, which it was a Final Four game.
And it was against what I would consider a very good team in the Animals.
That was giving them a little bit of trouble, especially in the beginning of the game, especially with the defensive line. I think the Insomniacs offensive line was a little surprised by how quickly the Animals defensive line, especially Trey Baskerville, was getting in. But they adjusted and really they couldn't run the ball against the Animals, which I think was the telling thing. The only way that they could really get, chunk yardage and big plays was when they put the ball in Scooter's hands. And when he had a clean pocket, he was deadly that night.
That he was. And the thing about it that stood out to me was how quickly he got to the record because he was pretty much there in the third quarter. And he was going to call it a game. And then when he found out that he was so close, he's like, let me go back in. I think that there's something to that. And I think the Animals, it's kind of a hard call in my eyes because I agree with you for some of it. For another part of it, I don't know that I totally agree with what you said, but I mean, that's opinions. We all know what they say about opinions. In this case, that's what our show is based on. So in my eyes, I think that in that situation, watching what was going on between the two, I think that there was definitely a little bit of a surprise from what the Animals brought defensive line wise. But I also think that it was also just a little bit of the Insomniacs really not taking the first or the second quarter seriously, because you saw them trying a lot of pitchbacks and a lot of stuff you're not used to seeing them do. And I was even scratching my head going, why are we doing this? And that created a lot of the turnovers. So then it got really clean in the second half because they stopped a lot of that. So I mean, it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. It is what it is. The game played out the way the game played out. But I've got to give it to the Animals because seeing them live really re-emphasized what I had said about them being real and about them being a tough team and a team that people are going to have to watch out for on the East Coast moving into next season.
Yeah, and if they play that game in a different place, the game might have been closer. But we do have to remind ourselves, as great as it seemed, the Animals played in that game at times. I believe the final score was like 60-24 or something. So
correct.
So that's the Vegas division, at least in the preliminary discussions here. Mm-hmm. And there's really nothing much to talk about, but I did want to kind of give credit to where credit's due. Even though Ohio needs to get their division together and get back some of those teams that they combined so that they don't have to travel as much, there's really not much to say about the Ohio division. But what I will say is that I was impressed with a guy that came into the season thinking that he would have the luxury of going back to his kind of more natural position in wide receiver. But because the guy that their team had decided would end up being the quarterback just ended up not being able to play at all, Keno Thomas once again stepped in for the quarterback of his team, this time with the QC Crush. And if it weren't for a couple of plays here and there that didn't go their way, the Crush could have surprised everybody in this league and won a really tough Elite Eight game against the East Orange Renegades in a performance that I think was, not necessarily filled with, pure mastery of the position of quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
But I got to tell you, there's not a lot of guys as tough or as clutch as Keno Thomas when his team needs him the most. And he was making a lot of big plays.
Well, I'll tell you this.
If it wasn't for Kyle Ward, maybe things go differently for that game. But go ahead.
I want to specify something. So I was sitting here shaking my head, and I wasn't shaking my head about what you said. What I was shaking my head about is the grit of Keno. I think I love the kid. I really do. He is one of the, he came out here for the combine when we did the combine in 2023 at Bullhead. And he's just an athlete. But I was very taken with him because of his demeanor. Like you said, he just seems to let nothing faze him. He's ready to play. He can go out there and give you everything that a defense can want in a wide receiver, and he can also do the same as a quarterback. And because of his running ability, he's a dual threat, which makes him, puts him on. And when I say this, I don't want you guys to sit there and think I'm talking about talent and arm talent and everything else, but he puts himself at the level of Sterry as far as what he is able to do and his running ability. He's a very, very good runner, and he can throw the ball. So, I mean, it's not something that I would take lightly. And I agree with you. I think this kid, if he went back to his natural position, I would love to see him play for a season with a good quarterback as a wide receiver. I think that that is another great choice for the possibility of an offensive player of the year.
Yeah, and you said he kind of has some of that like Sterry running ability.
Yes.
When I watch him, he kind of reminds me a little bit of when Kareem Moon played quarterback for the U in stints when he would have to. Obviously more of a runner than a thrower, but good enough when he needs to throw. And it's really not an apt comparison because the lack of there's a long highlight film of Kareem Moon plays being made well before even the A7 was known as the A7 or even the U was known as the U. Shout out to the Wrecking Crew, but he's definitely a player that I am excited to see what he can do next year. And as far as the Ohio offensive guys, he's a guy that to me stood out and deserves the recognition that you get as an honorable mention in the other side of the ball, post-season discussion shows. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh, no, I agree with you. I could not agree more.
So that will bring us all the way to not the other side, but I guess the side of the ball, if that's what the name of the show is, but not to make it, me beefing or anything. The
Mm-hmm.
East Coast. And, the East Coast in all sports, let's be fair. There's a little bit of a bias there. There's the time zone thing. I'll say in the A7, there's a lot more of the games of the week seem to obviously be East Coast. And it does seem that because there's obviously more teams, the pool of hypothetical guys to win this award might be longer as far as the honorable mentions. But I'm going to be honest with you, Chris. For me in the East Coast, there's really only two options.
And what are those two options?
You give yours, and then I bet you I'll agree with most of what you're saying.
So, in my eyes,
you don't have to be restricted to the two, though. You can just go for it.
Well, in my eyes, one of the ones that I have to bring up would be Mr. Diaz from the Animals, and of course, if I'm just going with two for right now, the other one would be David Tender.
Yeah, and both of those guys really had standout seasons. And when you look statistically, Manny Diaz is up there with the number one receiver we'll talk about in a minute, with Siobhan Richardson. And it's it's Manny Diaz and Siobhan Richardson that are 2 and 3, and I forget which one, but in yards and touchdowns respectively. And Manny Diaz quite possibly is the biggest potential free agent on the market if reports are correct. And it'll be interesting to see if he finds a place where he can be the number one target from one of the number one quarterbacks in the league, because there's not a lot of quarterbacks out there that are on the level of David Tender in delivering the ball downfield.
So you're saying that that means that going to BIC wouldn't be a choice?
Well, I mean, is it a choice? Because if he goes there, that does seem like it could be fun.
But he wouldn't be the number one.
I mean, we talked, yes, exactly. And we talked about it last week with Sick With It and what they could do to build. You know, if they add in a wide receiver, that doesn't necessarily make them a better team because, yeah, they have depth now, but that's not where their weakness is. So if Manny Diaz does change teams, it'll be interesting to see what happens to his production, whether he goes to a team that doesn't have a quarterback that's as good as Tender, or he goes to a team that has wide receiver depth at the position and players that might be considered better than him. That'll be interesting. But yeah, both of those guys.
That's what I'm saying is that, you know, we've talked about this ad nauseum when we start talking about players going to already stacked teams. My question that I would ask Manny if he was on the show would be like, why are you looking to leave? That doesn't make sense to me.
Well, there's a lot of reasons other than, you know, what your role on the team was and how much statistics you are.
Oh, I know there's
right?
a lot of things that go into
well,
it.
It would be interesting. But
yeah, no, I'm just saying that like you said, you would have questions about it too, and that's all I'm saying is that I would really like to understand why he wants to leave the Animals, because in my eyes, the Animals are a great up and coming team, and right now would be a great fit for them, where they don't have a ton of other options that are going to preclude him from being a number one option. I mean, and with BIC, there's a couple in, you know, different areas. There's more than one, but that's all I'm saying. I would like to know.
To quote Jason Bateman in a movie about dog shows, well, I forget what that movie's called, but it's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see how it plays out. But for me, my two guys.
Hold on, before you go, that we got somebody that is going to be joining us, another Corey. So now I got to make sure that I call you guys the right way and call Mr. Price CP and Corey Hammond Corey, so that way you guys know who I'm talking to.
All right,
what's going on, man?
This is a good time to jump in for a CP to jump in, because as you mentioned, the Animals guys for Offensive Player of the Year. To me, the only two candidates that really would make sense, just based on pure offensive output. And when we discuss this award, I think a lot that goes into it is what is your definition of an offensive player of the year? And then sometimes when you're having this conversation, you also have to have the conversation is what is your definition of an MVP? And does it matter if we give one guy 2 awards, or do we want to spread around? Right. But we'll get to that towards the end of the show. But for me, at least in the East Division, there's only 2 names when you look at the numbers. It's Terry Codrington, who had almost 2,300 yards passing, 38 touchdowns, 0 interception, and also was either second or first in yards on the ground in the A7FL. So that's just insane. Not only was he the leading passer, he's the leading rusher, and he didn't turn the ball over all season. That's insane. But then you look at the type of record-breaking year from his number one wide receiver, Kason Campbell, in which he set the record and lapped it for receptions, yards, and touchdowns in a season. The touchdowns in a season mark, I think he almost doubled. This was a performance in one single season that sets Kason out as maybe having one of the best single seasons of any player in the history of the A7FL. And if we could only justify that by looking at like Matt Riddick's stats in his MVP season, in which he was rumored to have like 60 touchdowns, watching Kason Campbell put on a clinic at the wide
60
receiver
touchdowns.
position
How
this
many
year.
games did he play in?
He scored 25 touchdowns, and there's 10 recorded games.
Okay,
So
I thought you just said 60 touchdowns.
oh, Matt Riddick. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
you know how the fish stories go when there's no film and there's no stats, right, CP?
Yeah, especially
Yeah,
in
but that season when they played all their regular season games against Pennsylvania team competition, I mean they were scoring like 90 points.
Well, Chris, let me just jump in real quick about the Matt Riddick thing. What happened was in 2018 for sure, he scored 5 touchdowns against the Thrashers and the Hawks. So I believe out of those 2 Jersey games, he scored 10 touchdowns, if not 8 for sure. And in PA, he was scoring about at least 4 or 5 touchdowns as well out there because they had no competition. Kind of like how the Ohio division was and is now. But at the same time, you can't say anything about that because the Immortals were the shit back then. So Riddick, respectfully, probably realistically had about 33 or 34 touchdowns in 2018 as a corner, receiver, and returner.
Nice.
So, like Corey said, the offensive player of the year, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, like you said, Chris, you know what everybody's opinion is. I would personally give it to Sterry, just off the type of offensive game and intensity.
So, before you finish, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Would you look at him as offensive player of the year, or would you give him MVP?
I would give Kason Campbell the MVP personally, and I would give Sterry the offensive player of the year award. Only because me being a quarterback myself in this league and everything does run through us. But the season that Kason just had, I would say it undoubtedly tops Matt Riddick's MVP season just off the strength of whenever BIC really needed a stop at the corner position, we know it was KK that had to make the stop. And offensively on top of that, he was unstoppable all year. We know you couldn't press him because you get beat deep. If you play off of him, he's catching a short route, breaking the tackle for a touchdown. If 2 guys are covering Ashanti because he's the supposedly number 1, then you know Kason's going to eat all game. We just seen the last year's championship game, how the game could have turned out differently if Sterry hit Kason on a lot of them open routes. So we just seen the difference between last year's championship game and this year's championship game. What happens if you involve Kason Campbell? I will go a little step further and say that the addition of Mark Bagway kind of hurt Sterry's MVP case because you have another premier top-tier quarterback who came in the Renegades game and basically saved their ass, I feel like. And Kason once again came in on defense, and as well, he scored about 3 times offensively that game, I believe. But lastly, this is what Ryan Shamar from the U said, we're never going to see a season like this again. And I want to say never because, they said that in 2014 when Smoke scored supposedly 18 touchdowns in 1 year. They said we're never going to see a receiver play this again. So for Kason to have 23 touchdowns as a receiver, bro, when the talent on BIC is brass and we know Ashanti Worthy is the supposedly number 1 receiver, I just think that we know that, like Ryan Shamar said, Sterry is the quarterback and he's going to get the MVP award, and that's just how football is nowadays. But not necessarily say to rob Kason of this season. It would be kind of a catastrophe because I think it's going to be a rare occasion we see a receiver score 23 touchdowns. And I mean 4 touchdowns against Vegas, 4 touchdowns against the Animals, 4 touchdowns in Ohio. Like 4 touchdowns in the championship game as well. I mean, come on now. The man got the 4 for 4 special. And I'm not just saying this because he's from Elizabeth like me. I'm not vouching for him because he's from here. I went to high school with him. I'm just telling you from what I see, this has been one of the best seasons as a receiver that we've ever seen and probably will ever see.
Well, and I think the only reason I would disagree with you, Corey, and CP, I could say Corey, I guess, because I'm obviously. Well, maybe it's not even obvious.
You can say Corey. That's okay.
I do have conversations with myself sometimes. I talk for so long. But I will say that I agree with almost everything that CP said, except for I would reverse it. My MVP is Sterry Codrington, and we'll have that discussion on the MVP show. And my offensive player of the year would be Kason Campbell.
And you really can't go wrong with either one, though.
And it really just comes down to, and I like the way that you framed it, CP, and you added the defensive plays that you can attribute to Kason Campbell towards his MVP. I would argue that you could even say the same about Sterry Codrington in a decent amount of games.
Sterry had 2 picks and a pick 6.
Well, I'll put it this way. If I'm going to look at that, I am going the opposite as well. And I would say that Sterry would be my MVP, and KK was going to be the offensive player of the year. And the reason why I would break it down like that is because who was throwing him the ball for most of the touchdowns and most of the yardage was Sterry. So yeah, I've got to go with Sterry. If you took him off of there and there was no Bagway, would he get all the accolades that he's gotten? Would he have had all the touchdowns? Would he have had all the yards? So I'm leaning more towards the fact of saying Sterry would be my MVP and KK would be my offensive player of the year.
And lastly, too, I just want to put this out there. I'm just saying this to say because I played with them their first 2 years of the league, 2021 and 2022. I felt like Kason should have got at least an award, like a Rookie of the Year award in 2021. So this is his 4th year going on in the league with no awards and no accolades. So to say that, I just want to say, like, I feel like it's overdue for what he's done for BIC. But like I said, maybe it's just because I know in the future Sterry's going to win another MVP if he's playing at this level. And I know, like, they're never going to give a receiver a MVP award. It's never going to happen if it doesn't happen now.
Well, I mean, and the thing about it is I can understand where you're coming from on it. But at the same time, because MVPs, obviously, you are correct with what you're saying. But I got to look at it as, again, who delivers the ball. And that's why I got to look at Sterry as being the MVP.
Like they say, if you win, is it because of the QB? If you lose, it's because of the QB. You got to take all the blame. You take all the praise.
Well, by default, when you play the position of wide receiver and you're a pass-catching wide receiver, if you're going to dominate a game, it's a dependent position, right? The quarterback is an independent position. If you succeed as a quarterback, it's not fully independent because guys have to catch the ball and guys have to block. But your statistics are based on your statistics. You cannot make a catch as a wide receiver if a quarterback isn't able to throw you the ball. So being a dependent position, sometimes a wide receiver does get missed.
Let me stop you right there because that's what you just said right there is the reason why you had Dave Valley as your MVP last year. Okay, go Chargers.
Well,
and we haven't had any of the awards put out for voting or anything yet, so don't know. Can't answer that question yet.
But yeah, I'm sorry, bro. I'm just saying, Corey. Like that's why Dave Valley was your MVP last year because without offensive line, the quarterback can't throw it all.
Exactly, but Geary was my MVP last year. Valley was Rob's. Valley was Rob's MVP, and rightfully so. I think my runner-up would have been because I was giving it. Kind of like you said, I was giving it in the regular season to a player that was not in the championship game. A little bit contrarian, but I also think when you look at his statistics, it's similar.
And they were me though because
Sickwood was undefeated in the regular season.
Without Jeremy Gary, they wouldn't be shit. So it's like if you take the guy off this team, how good would this team still be? And Sickwood wouldn't have been shit. So it's like
I don't know if you put a Canyon Stone King, I guess, but. When we talk about the award for this year, we'll talk about the MVP when the MVP comes. But I think it's interesting. CP touched on something that I think we should go in a little bit further depth because it's not only it's a good story to tell for the guy that I think should win the award in Kason Campbell. It is a good lesson to young players in the league, fans of the league that are learning how to play football themselves. CP mentioned it when Kason Campbell came into this league. The talent was not a question at all. Everybody saw it. It was visible as soon as he popped on the screen, and there was high expectations, I think, from Kason Campbell really early in his career. But there was a time in which, at least in the eyes of Games of the Week color analyst Rob Fabian, he was a disappointment at times. And I never.
He dropped a lot of passes. Sterry put on the money.
And I never.
That's why he went to corner. So you're right.
Well, I would never put a guy in that spot knowing the talent that Kason has. But the thing is that because he had the immense talent, he had the big expectations. So for him to have the year that he had, while let's be clear, Ashanti Worthy didn't have a down year. Ashanti Worthy still balled his ass out, is among the league leaders in both receptions, yards, touchdowns, and returns, as he always is. But for Kason Campbell to kind of put it all together in year 4, turn all of the potential into realized, actualized results, and for that to be one of the driving factors for them becoming champions again this year, it just goes to show you that even if you do have moments in your journey that you start to struggle or there's obstacles in the way, the real thing that a champion and a winner does in both football and in life, I think, because it's a good lesson, is you keep grinding, you keep fighting, you believe in yourself, and eventually those failed opportunities can be converted into lessons that make you better. And I think that's kind of the story, at least until this point, of who Kason Campbell is in the A7FL, and why, for me, his record-breaking season should be cemented and cement his legacy with an Offensive Player of the Year award.
I don't think we're going to get any arguments out of anybody on that one. But realistically, I think, Corey, that we know that this stuff does not just come down to us. Obviously, they'll be voting on it and stuff, but I mean, I agree with you. I think that between the two, Sterry and Kason, there's going to be a 1-2 punch of Offensive Player of the Year and MVP.
Yo, CP, I know you're making fettuccine Alfredo and shit. Why don't you mute that shit so we don't hear your cooking noises?
I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine. I wanted to make a joke. What are you making?
That's because Corey hungry.
The kids some vegetables, mac and cheese, chicken nuggets, and French fries.
Listen, that's the staple. At least you're getting the vegetables.
That's the ultimate hood meal for these kids, bro.
What hood meal? That's what my kids eat. They don't eat the vegetables though, so good for you. And don't show the plate. Scott Hamilton gets hungry when we do this show. He eats when he airs.
Man, yeah, don't show the plates. I can smell it from here.
Oh my God, yo.
So Dub, you're joining us late.
Can we just play devil's advocate? Because like Corey said earlier,
we should. We have to.
I watch a lot of games, and it does seem like there's always like the East Coast, everything. Listen, that kid Stone King, he should probably win Rookie of the Year and be a candidate for Offensive Player of the Year. The kid Richardson, I'm gonna say Prime. We still got to throw DT in there, even though he got hurt. Like you said earlier, Chris, Manny Diaz. Like there was a lot of guys that played A1 level football this year that's just gonna get not mentioned or thrown under the rug because the season that Sterry and Kason has is going to overshadow everybody, which it really shouldn't.
Well, but I mean, you're talking about Offensive Player of the Year and MVP. We're talking with Stone King and Richardson, the fact of them possibly being Rookies of the Year. So that's going to be different, right? And the ones that's going to get hurt are the guys that came in after those guys. When we're talking about Offensive Player of the Year, are the guys that came in after KK. So it really doesn't matter. I mean,
yeah, you're really
it's
right.
Kind of set.
Well, and by the way, that's CP coming in hot listing guys that last week we talked about, not knowing the stats that we got from Cole Gardella. So, CP, you're tapped in. Dub, we missed you until you joined us late. Who we haven't mentioned would be a guy that you mentioned, as just give him some props, but no hardware.
Trey Robinson.
Okay.
Yeah, but CP, you're not Dub. He was asking Dub.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, you're good. I don't care. It's fine.
I'm so sorry, bro.
Rushing
y'all
yardage.
in like 3 weeks, so I missed y'all, bro. I'm sorry.
It's all right, man. No biggie.
Oh my god.
Well, CP, who do you think had more rushing yardage?
Hold on. The other Dub, the real Dub.
I'm sorry, Dub. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Dub. Who you got? Who you got that hasn't been mentioned?
Well, I really don't know who you guys have mentioned, so I really, I might be saying the same name.
So we mentioned Stone King, we mentioned Richardson, we mentioned
Scott Hamilton, Derek Cosby-Timms.
Yep.
Kason Campbell,
KK. Who else? Who are we
David
missing?
Tendren.
David Tender.
All them youngins.
All
the
the
YNs. The YNs.
I don't think I can say that. And Kristen Dub really can only say half of it. So.
Well, I guess for me, one person that kind of stood out per se, for me at times when watching this particular team play, was, and I'm trying to get his name so I don't, mess it up. But I mean, watching Kyle Ward for the Renegades did something.
Oh, nice. Okay,
offensively this year. So I mean, he's definitely would be worthy of an honorable mention because I mean, like I said, I mean and I've said this, and I'm beating a dead horse with a stick. But I mean, again, other than the U always taken to the wire against the BIC twice this past season, the Renegades, and some would say that the Renegades possibly should have beaten the BIC at least once, for sure. The playoff game.
Don't even get CP started. Actually, do get him started. He could go on for probably like 20 minutes, and that'll take up the show.
Yeah, for real.
Go ahead, keep going.
But I mean, just Kyle Ward just really stood out to me, and just what him and Service did for the Renegades, basically turning a team that struggled last season in 2024 to a team that literally had the eventual champions on the ropes, and they just couldn't finish them in the championship rounds, to use a boxing term. But I mean, Kyle Ward is definitely somebody that really stood out in my mind, just watching from afar and what he did to help the Renegades be a legit contender this past season, and perhaps building some momentum going into 2026.
Can I give you guys an insider? Because I heard you talking about it earlier.
Inside information. Here we go.
I think Manny Diaz is coming to the Renegades.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So the main issue why he's leaving the Animals is because, unfortunately, and this is what I hate, because I literally do my show, The Price is Right, when I have time, kid free, so you don't hear screaming in the background, and when I just feel like some news is meant to be heard. So we all seen that Manny wasn't there for the Insomniacs game.
Correct.
But he showed up.
He was there for the Insomniacs game. He was there for the Insomniacs game.
What do you mean?
Not out here for
He
the
wasn't in
Insomniacs
Vegas?
game.
He wasn't in Vegas.
BIC.
He wasn't in Vegas. What he's trying to say.
He was there for the Insomniacs
He was
game
at the
against
championship game
BIC.
because I think
Corey's making it funny. He's making it funny.
I got to do the dad jokes, guys.
So since he showed up to the BIC championship game, some of the guys on the Animals took offense to that because they're like, "How the hell are you not going to show up to our game, but you're in Jackson, New Jersey, showing up and supporting BIC and wearing their colors?" So that became a whole issue.
I think driving distance might be one of them. But anyway.
Unfortunately, when I do my show, a lot of guys go in there and they feel like this is their chance to like blow off a lot of steam and get angry and scream because I've did that a few times, so that's probably my fault. But at the same time, DT and Manny got into it, seriously when everyone thought they were joking, and DT told him, "Get the fuck off the team. We don't need you anymore." So, as a man, everybody was telling him to piece it up, but as a man, if someone's telling me that, I'm not going back there. On top of that, Manny does play a lot of flag with our TMU guys that play for the Renegades. So it's just a perfect storm that's going to clear up and be good for us, So now we're going to have Kyle Ward and Manny Diaz. Hopefully Serve can progress and move another step up. And then we'll take it from there and see what happens in 2026, Why does my voice sound like Patrick Mahomes? Y'all hear that shit?
You said
going on,
yo?
you said that, not us.
You said
What
it,
the
not
fuck is
us.
going on, bro? Is this
Just
like
You
the
do
last
not
stage?
sound like Kermit the Frog. I don't care what
Okay,
anybody
thank
says.
you. I'm about
I
to say
don't
this is
think
the
so.
last stage of my adulthood.
No, this is Kermit the Frog here reporting for Sesame Street News.
That
You
right
don't-
there,
You
right
do not
there,
sound like Kermit
that
the
is
Frog
Patrick
here.
Mahomes, and you don't sound like that.
Nor do you put ketchup on your steak, and that's a whole nother story.
Yeah, that kid's weird for that.
That kid's weird no matter what.
Yeah, the whole family, honestly. But that's just that's neither here or there.
The mom needs Jesus.
So does a brother. Don't get it twisted.
Dude,
Brother seriously needs Jesus.
But
so,
I do.
so guys, in conclusion, who do you guys have for the offensive player of the year besides Kayshawn Campbell?
Well, that's kind of we went around the horn and we talked about all the names that have already been mentioned.
I love that.
I
love
think
that show around the horn.
now, R.I.P. to all the greats. Not that they're dead, but I don't think the show exists anymore.
No, the
But,
show went.
Well,
The show went off the air.
Stuart Scott, just rest in peace, Stuart Scott.
As long as PTI is on the air, that's the only reason why I watch ESPN other than actual games. Once they take Kornheiser and Wilbon off the air, only thing I watch on ESPN is actual games. That's it.
Well, this is kind of unrelated, but just real quick, since we have CP, yo, you trying to get these Renegades in a New Jersey fall and just have a real fall, do it up?
Yeah, I can do that, bro.
Bro, you don't even gotta tell Service it's happened. Just you'll get your chance. You got the ball, and then we'll have a duel. We'll have a duel like the old days.
All right, perfect. Because it's been since 2019. I don't know what the hell we're doing, but fall brawl has always been a thing over here, guys. And since we've stopped fall brawl, I think that's where our laziness started and the bullshit started. Of we think we're the shit, because fall brawl definitely got us sharp and it got us ready and it got us knowing who we have coming in. It just made everything more complete. So since that fall brawl's been missing since 2019. The East Coast has lost its edge.
A lot of times in the fall, guys, just a little behind the scenes, CP can vouch for this. A lot of times in the fall, the team that would end up winning in the fall would convert that into regular season success in the spring that followed, right? And it's no mystery why when the Chiefs won in the fall championship the year before they won the championship that they were the front runners and figured it out and ran the table. I think it also happened for the BIC your year, CP, if I'm not mistaken.
We won the fall 2015 and we won in 2016 spring.
So anyway, but getting back to offensive player of the year, listen, I don't think the conversation needs to get too much further with the award, but since we do have CP, maybe we could get some other more incendiary topics, covered, because I think unless anybody else has anything to say, I think with the hour mark upon us, we wrap up OPOY and then jump into CP's grievances, because I'd like to hear the pro Renegades anti-BIC take, because the champs need to be humbled. The champs need to be humbled a little bit. It'll help them. It'll help the league. But anyway,
it really would.
Let's go around the horn. Dub, who you got? Final answer, offensive player of the year. And why? Because I want to know.
Well, again,
Because you want to know.
And again, all the players that have been mentioned are certainly worthy of being mentioned for this award. But hands down, and this is not, being disrespectful to anybody, but I mean, if it's not Kason Campbell, then why are we here?
I think that's as good a reason as any. That's my. I second Dub. CP, who's your final answer?
Who you asking?
I said CP, but he's
I'm sorry.
doing the thing. He's doing the thing.
I mean, if we're being honest. Realistically, I would say it is Kason Campbell.
You could go with your Sterry OPOY Kason MVP. I don't mind it.
Mine would be Sterry. Runner up would be shit. Mine is RTC. He showed fucking grit in that championship game being hurt. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I look at shit like that.
Chris, who you got?
Probably because of the way I said I broke it down with Sterry being the MVP. I'm gonna say KK would have to be my choice for offensive player of the year.
Yeah, let's just say this and have it be on the record just a little bit. Love the guys who are in charge of this. Dub said it. Why are we here? Don't fuck this up. You know who won. Just give it to him. Anyway.
Who's got to vote? Who's got to vote? Who here's got to vote? I know I don't.
I don't know if I do or not. I didn't vote last year. I'm just gonna be honest. I did vote 2 years ago, and my votes didn't win. I mean, it's not just one or two people. So the thing is you saw the MVP nominations last year. There was fucking, excuse my language. I was trying not to curse tonight, but whatever. Fuck that, I guess.
Shit happens.
Yeah, right.
Manly shit.
My eldest son is rewatching the MCU. It reminds me of Captain America being language.
And by gosh, watch your language.
Thanks, Tony.
Yeah, there was what, 5 guys from the Octane, and they didn't even make the playoffs. So, all right, don't fuck it up. Okay.
Yeah,
now,
you were very passionate about a lot of Octane nominees from last season.
Listen, I think guys deserve their recognition, but one thing that I
Dave Valley last year.
Yeah, I mean, Dave Valley was in my opinion, Dave Valley was the reason that BIC, hot take, BIC was better last year than this year. It's just their quarterback played better this year than last year. Period.
Yep.
We could get into that later, but the one thing that I think we didn't get the chance to talk about after the BIC Renegades game, CP, you were on. And part of the show notes where we were going to let you kind of have your little moment to rant. Now, I don't know if given the time to distance yourself, you've either gotten more delusional and bitter about it, or if you're less angry about it. So I don't know if it fermented into like a fine wine, or if it rotted out into some sour, like, like thing that's like eating at your soul. No, I'm just joking.
The thing about me, everything is always there, and I can always bring it out. As far as or similar to the first Avengers movie when he was telling Bruce Banner it's the time to get angry, and he was like, "Well, that's the secret. I'm always angry." You know, so
that's the secret.
Always there, bro.
I'm always aggrieved. So what are your grievances? Air your grievances. We'll call it Festivus.
So I'll just take it back a couple years ago when I said that after we won the championship with BIC, how I felt like that was their time to be the dynasty and their time to, possibly be in the Insomniac situation to three-peat. So when they lost in 2023 to the U, and I was so hard on them, it was because I just felt like that was their time. And when I say their time, I mean like the young guys like Sterry, Ashanti, to really cement their legacy in the league as it being like the next premier Mount Rushmore to carry the league. But once I knew when they lost to the U, I knew that either the Nightcrawlers or the Insomniacs were going to win, because I knew.
Because they were the teams remaining, though. No, I'm just joking. There was Watchmen were left too.
It was the Watchmen.
Is that what made it obvious?
No, I'm joking.
Yeah, but listen, hear me out real quick. I wanted to see BIC versus the Insomniacs in 2023. So when they didn't make it there, and I was really on their ass about it, and they were like, "Oh, you're just mad." So I knew too when we played them in week 1 and they beat us 27-20, when they had Matt Riddick there and everyone there and they barely beat us. I knew from right there something was wrong, and I knew there wasn't going to no championship because they should have blew us the fuck out. So I was telling them and explaining to them that something's missing. Like, y'all don't have the championship form like that. When I played with y'all, when I played with myself, y'all was missing. So that turned into the hate, you feel me? So then when they lost again last year, I put the extra emphasis on, well, am I hating now? Because you guys made it there and everyone thought you were going to win and y'all blew the fucking bag, you feel me? Now, y'all let these guys that y'all kept saying for 2-3 years, it's going to take 5 years to win a championship. Oh, they're not this, they're not that. And I kept telling y'all, they're fucking good. And they proved to y'all 2 years in a row. I was trying to light a fire under BIC so they can return to form. How when I played with them, how I just felt like we had that fire inside of us that Kenny used to spark before every game. So like Corey said, they got lazy, but the East Coast in general got lazy. But I knew the Insomniacs were coming. So fast forward to the Renegades playoff game. Now, the whole Ashanti coming on the sideline, the ref didn't see it, you feel me? Whatever, shit happens. I didn't see worse shit in the league. But the questionable calls that Will Franklin was calling that game, it just made it seem like no matter what, they wanted BIC to be there. And they were going to do whatever they had to do to make sure BIC was in that Final Four. Because what is A7 NFL without BIC in the Final Four? Let's be real. That's not selling. And this league is about selling. It's about ratings.
Well,
so not only that,
with
the 8 men on the field, with the 8 men on the field they had,
yes.
and the refs said they didn't see that either. Not only that, Serve got to hang on to the ball. You can't fucking fumble twice.
Yeah.
So
it's fair.
You know, push come to shove, you still got to play football. But it just felt like with all the touchdowns that got called back, with all the holding calls, with all the crazy flags and the shit y'all didn't see, the sideline shit, and y'all apologizing after the game, it just felt like y'all wanted them there. But let's be honest though. I just feel like the Renegades weren't going to beat the Insomniacs in Vegas anyway. And on top of that, most of them guys was going to play in a flag tournament for money the following week anyway. So as people love to be, or not love, as much as people are annoyed by KWAG's God's plan, you feel me? I believe in divine intervention. I believe in everything happens for a reason. And I felt like that BIC team that showed up in Jackson, New Jersey, that team wasn't going to show up unless they were in the championship game. So I love BIC. You know, I'm glad that they took my advice and everyone showed up and play how they're supposed to play, because now not only the bragging rights, but the championship is back over here in the East Coast. But at the same time, like Corey said, I would have rather them beat us fair and not cheat. So they need to get humbled.
I got a question for both you and Corey.
Go get it.
And this is just a question. I don't want anybody reading into it. It's just a friggin' question. Do you think that the outcome of the championship game this past season might have been different if it was played in Vegas?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, and I always say yes, because I hate to say this too, because they say this about our championship in 2016. There's an asterisk on the championship game because Moon supposedly caught the Hail Mary in the back of the end zone, when Ryan DePaul literally made a separate video showing how Moon stepped on the white line and bobbled the catch. But, you know, everyone is just...
Moon caught
it. Well, everyone's like Corey. They just ignore the evidence. But
I listen, I give it to Rob every single time he brings it up. I thought he caught it. I thought he caught it, man.
They say that
I lean offense. Go ahead.
Yards,
my bad.
Since it was 70 for the field was not only 75 yards, but it was kind of, you know, smaller and whatnot. That took away you guys' opportunity for the 3-on-1, which you guys did return one, and they returned none. So that and the field being 75 yards, now there's the rumor of there's an asterisk on the championship game because it wasn't a full 100 yards and it was.
Oh man, there's no.
Okay,
No.
okay,
Let's make
okay,
sure we
okay,
understand this. There's
okay,
no asterisk
okay.
next to any championship from BIC
Okay.
for this year.
Okay.
No asterisk.
Okay. Not
Well,
about
that's coming from you, Chris. This is what I see on the New Jersey page whenever I or Keith Salmon go live. I'm just telling you what the urban guys and what the streets are saying. None of this is coming from my mouth.
okay,
Whatever
but
comes from my mouth,
So yeah,
you would know.
let Dub go. Dub
Okay.
okayed like 12, 13.
okay. Let's
14.
go back to 2024. BIC took one
Eat
back.
that mac and cheese.
What happened? The Insomniacs tightened up on defense. Okay. Why would you not take
want French fries?
advantage of a guy that has as strong of an arm as Mark Backway has, and you neutralize the 3-on-1 return? That's called adjusting. That's called coaching. So for people to say that, well, they didn't get the chance to do the 3-on-1 because of the short field, that I guarantee you, we were playing on a 100-yard field. Backway would probably throw that out the end zone anyway, and whoever was back
And
there
that's
would not
what
have got.
I was saying, but they were just saying now I'm taking up for BIC, but come on, bro. Like
Okay,
we seen how Bagway plays.
fair is fair. Facts are facts. Here's the facts. Scott Hamilton, 3 interceptions was the reason why BIC won this game, because BIC turned those into points. Point blank, end of story.
Yes.
What in the damn hell are we talking about?
Well,
I
I
just
think
feel like
what are we talking about?
Everyone likes to make an excuse for why they lost, or everyone just wants to have a point, a reason or something to point to, or why they lost. You know, it's just like I play this new NCAA game, and every time somebody loses, oh, you had the home field advantage, or the game is like this, or bro, just say good game. Just say you were better than me. It's not that hard. You feel me?
And
So-
to get back
But
to
there's always going to be some feeling of animosity about this game from somebody because of the shortened field. And I'm not saying, I'm just pointing stuff out because of the shortened field and because of whatever. I'm not, to me, it doesn't mean jack. I
Yeah.
just would like to see a championship game that's played on a
DP Muse.
kind of in the NFL. You're playing it on a neutral field.
Okay,
Well, and get
That's all I'm saying.
are we not going
Nothing
to
major.
are we not going to forget the Insomniacs had an 8-point lead? Or did we forget that part?
No,
nobody's
nobody's arguing about it.
I'm not talking about you three. I'm just generally speaking. The
In
Insomniacs
general.
The Insomniacs had an 8-point lead. The Insomniacs led for most of the first half.
Yeah.
Okay, now, by smart rules, the BIC did what they did against Sigwood, which was like, you know what? Okay, if you want to score fast, go ahead and score fast. We're going to play ball control offense and waste the hell out of this clock.
Yeah, it's
And
what
to-
it is.
And to their credit, that was very genius on the coaching staff's part to do that. Okay, again, yes. Okay, here is one thing that
Can
we
I
do
give
know.
you guys another insight, real quick?
Hold on, let me finish my point, and I got you, Chris.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay,
Go ahead.
here's what we do know. Okay, there's always going to be missed calls, so let's just throw
given.
that out the window. But as it always is in football, whoever controls the line of scrimmage and whoever takes care of the football wins football games. It has been that way in football since the beginning of time. It has not changed. It's over. The Trenton Brothers in Christ won the championship. Now they'll try to do something that they have not done in their history, which is go back to back.
Yeah, and CP, you go your inside, and then I want to bring it back to Chris's original framing of the question for my response.
Oh, speaking of the game, where I was playing the game with Sterry yesterday, shout out to him, was all in the party chat. And Keith, RTU, he joined the party too. And he was explaining, he asked Sterry, like, what do you think about the Insomniacs? And Sterry straight up said that he feel like they weren't that good. And
CP just out here reporting shit without consent of the. No, I'm just joking.
well, you know, it's the price is right, baby. So, but
Hey, let's go. All right. So to bring it back to the original framing of Chris's question, because I think that's the interesting conversation. What happened is what happened, and I don't think Chris was asking the question to hypothetically say, well, this isn't what should have happened, right? What happened, and I agree with Dub, right? Both of those teams had to adjust to the things that were going on in that game.
Exactly.
But the question that Chris asked, if that game is played in Vegas, do the Insomniacs win that game? And what I think
That's not what I said.
Or what? Ask the question exactly the way that you asked it.
I said, if the game was played in Vegas, do you think it would have been a different outcome?
Well, I think then we get into the how many times do these teams play each other in the current formation? Like, how many times does each team win in like 10 times? And what's nice is we've already seen twice, and if they've split it, and hopefully we get to see these teams play each other more. But I think to answer Chris's question is, I think with a different set of circumstances, I think this game comes out differently. Not that BIC didn't earn it in the moment and that the Insomniacs didn't make the plays when they needed to win the championship this year. I think clearly BIC is the champs, and the reason that there's all this other conversation is because like you guys were saying, when teams lose, the first like stage of like loss, right? Whether it's like losing a loved one or losing a game, is denial, and then there's the other stages. So then there was the blame stage, and then there was the coping stage, right? So everybody was just going through the grief. But I don't think it's a hot take to say that if this game is played in a different place or with different circumstances, or if a different play breaks a different way, that the outcome wouldn't have been different. I think it's not necessarily a hot take also to say that this year's BIC is not as complete and as good of a team as last year's BIC when you just look at the roster construction. But what I will say is that 10 out of 10 times these two teams play in the current 2025, I think that BIC wins more, maybe the 6 out of the 10. But I do think the Insomniacs could have easily won that game if a couple of things went their way. It just didn't happen that day. And Matt Riddick made a lot of great plays that I don't think a lot of guys in this league could make.
Well, and I disagree. I think that it would be 5-5. I think these two teams are pretty evenly matched. I don't agree with the fact that BIC would win 6 to 7 out of the 10.
That's fair, and I think we're making the distinction between one game or not. But I think that these teams are What's interesting about these teams is, to me, is if you really break down the film, they don't get more complicated to succeed on offense or defense. They actually, when these teams are succeeding, it's when they almost simplify. And what they're winning, both of these teams were winning on offense, and when it came to defense as well, is not the design of some complicated, like, awesome plays, but execution of the plays. Like, just look at the rocket screen, right? The rocket screen was a deadly play for the Insomniacs because they blocked it, and it was an okay so-so play for BIC because they didn't block it as well as the Insomniacs, right? So those touchdowns on a 75-yard field or a 100-yard field are touchdowns for the Insomniacs because they blocked it, right?
Yeah.
And then when you look at the other side of the ball with BIC, they were really just eating up the Insomniacs defense with crossing routes because in a man-on-man coverage, because they had a guy that was really responsible most of the game for kind of spying on Sterry. When they would send those guys, whether it was Kason Campbell or the couple times it was Ashanti Worthy, on cross the field breaking routes, that's the best route against man coverage because you're running away from the defender the entire route. And when Sterry was throwing that ball accurately, there was really not even anything that Prime or even Danye Lyons, who are among the best cover corners in our league, could do. And it was the simplicity of both of those teams that was an execution that I think was something to look at for the rest of the league to try to emulate.
No, I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to argue that with you. All I'm going to say is that the reason why I asked the question was just basic, because I think that in situations, for my personal, this has nothing to do with anybody else's, just my personal opinion, my personal thought. Championship games should be played on neutral fields where nobody has the upper hand. And in this case, it was a little bit on the weird side seeing a field that was shortened. I'm not saying anything about the outcome or the play of the game. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to hear it. That's not what I'm talking about. All I'm saying is it looked weird watching that game because when they said the field was shortened, somebody had said that it was 90 yards. So I took it meaning that it was 90 yards between the goal lines. I didn't know they meant 90 yards total. So watching the game was a little odd to me because I'm watching the game going, okay, he's crossing the fit. No, he's not. He's friggin' damn near in the end zone. So there was some adjustments that had to be made on my behalf too, because watching the game, the yardage didn't quite make sense when I was watching it. So that's again, my opinion, period. I'm not saying that the outcome would have been any different had it been a 100-yard field in New York. I don't know. I can't say that. I'm not going to. I'm just saying it was a little weird watching.
I think it's fair. I think it's fair to say it could have.
I don't know. But the bottom line is, the thing about it is, and RTC's right. No excuses. They lost flat out.
And that's not what we're doing. We're not saying what should have or could have happened. We're just saying what if, and that's really the end of that. Dub, what do you think?
I kind of agree with Chris's sentiment. I think you play these guys they play each other 10 times. It's about as even as you can go. Like I said, these are the two most evenly matched teams that we've had the last 2 years that we've seen in the championship game, and both games told a different story. If they were to meet again in 2026, I can't wait to see what kind of a story that would tell. But I do agree in a sentiment to where it really does need to be a true neutral site game like the college championship game is, like the Final Four is, like the Super Bowl is. But again, here's the thing. If the Insomniacs would have gone, back-to-back in New Jersey and won in New Jersey again, then the narrative would probably change on that aspect. So, now I'm talking about the big wigs of the league. Maybe need to come up with a way to figure out, okay, we need a true neutral site for the championship game, etc., etc., etc. Or the cities that are involved, you put them on a rotational basis to host the game within our divisions that we have. Maybe that's another way to look at it.
Yeah.
So
because look, it's in my eyes the thing that I'm looking at right here is like Dub just said, 2 times going back east to New Jersey, or that the East Coast. I really don't care about the fact that they were twice there. All I'm saying is, if you are playing in this, we know how some teams travel compared to others. So it is real simple. And that is a fact that if you are going to be playing a championship game, it should be, because of how small the league truly is, it should be a rotational basis. There should not be this whole thing of championship games in back-to-back seasons to anybody, whether it's out here, whether it's out there, it doesn't matter.
Well,
I think be these back-to-back seasons.
I think the only thing missing, and I think Derek would be the best one to kind of, justify this, but the reason I think it was up in the air is because the hope is that it could be an all Vegas championship, and then it would, imagine having an all Vegas championship in New Jersey or in Ohio or something. But I think it's a fair point. That game, I don't think was the game of the year, because we do have 10 minutes left. So let's see if we can end the show off with something fun. That game didn't end up being as close as maybe we thought it might be, but it was certainly a really awesome game to watch. But I don't think, like many seasons, the championship ended up being game of the year. 2024 championship game was probably game of the year. It's almost unquestionable. Maybe sick Insomniacs game of the year, but
Well,
uh,
we all talk about the 2023 chip and how that just stands out for everybody, and just how
yeah, that's game of the year.
that whole entire weekend was just an amazing event to be a part of, for sure.
But I will say that for 2025, championship game was not game of the year. What would be some of the games that you guys would mention for game of the year for 2025?
Renegades versus BIC,
Week 1, yes. Because
without a shadow of a doubt.
just the whole shock of it actually coming down and going into overtime, and the Renegades actually having a chance, and some would say should have won that game and didn't.
Yep.
That stands out. Heck,
And the BIC Renegades championship game was also a really tight
the playoff
game.
game was good too. There's
Or
that.
not championship game, playoff game. My bad.
Heck, Watchmen and
The Watchmen Renegades
Watchmen
game was
Renegades.
also fun.
that went in overtime, and Baltimore walks it off. Good grief.
What were some of the close games out in the Vegas division?
Gold versus
Golden Hunters.
Hunters.
That
When
ended on a pick six, didn't it?
When
Yes,
the
it
Gold
did.
finally got their first win. I would say for most of the game, the second meeting between the Stealth and the Gold really had the chances to really be something, but eventually the Stealth pulled away.
If you just do the first half, then yes, the game was
The
incredible.
first 3 quarters was very
Yes.
very good, and then of course the Stealth ended up pulling away. But I mean, those 2 games for me, oddly enough, both involving the Renegades. But I will say the BIC Animals 53-51 game was pretty fun to watch as well.
Yeah, it was. Yes, it
Yeah,
was.
I was in the car driving back from Baltimore.
Yeah.
That game was pretty crazy. I actually stopped in Philly, got a cheesesteak. That was awesome.
Oh, nice.
It was worth missing that game. Yeah, man. I think that I called the Watchmen Renegades game, and I'll tell you what, man, that was Ace Boogie John Gauze back in his full form, and I love the way that OG Buck plays. Don't get me wrong, but as just a fan of the position, I had always watched John Gauze ever since his days back as he actually played for the Cobras a long time ago, but mostly for the Gators in the older Baltimore division, where he won the only A7FL national championship for Baltimore as a division.
What's up, Tino?
Renegades versus Crush. That game was a really good game. Now that game was a little bit unorthodox in the way that things were going down. There was a lot of drama to the game, but there was a little bit of sloppiness too. I'm not gonna lie, Kino. We did mention you for a standout for offensive player out of the Ohio division, even though you were technically in the East. But man, seeing John Gauze kind of go back to 2018 form, where he's like the ultimate warrior, man. I think a lot of the reason he splits reps this late in his career is because of the play against BIC trying to get to the championship in I believe it was 2021. And John Gauze, Ace Boogie, went airborne trying to do the old John Elway at the pylon to win the game in a walk-off last play of the game, and he got hurt because an NFL player, a former NFL player that played at that time for BIC, absolutely baptized him. And he really hadn't been the same since. But that game, watching him kind of, master the position, true grit and, make some big-time throws, there was a lot of nostalgia, don't get me wrong, for my vote. But that was a great game to call, and if you were just a fan at home, watching that was definitely a pleasure.
I just want to tell Will, nobody wants to watch round 2.
Yeah.
Round 2, fight! That's basically what you get with Crush Chaos versus Watchmen.
Well, the conversation in Ohio is that the Chaos might actually try to make a comeback. I think the Ohio division would definitely benefit from more teams and less time driving to New Jersey specifically.
But how many teams?
Indiana.
How many teams did they have originally? I think they had
5.
4.
It was up to 5, I believe. They weren't 40-man rosters, but they had the Octane out of Indianapolis.
Mhm.
and then the 4 Ohio teams: Crush,
Chaos and
Heist, and then there was
Heist. Forgot about the Heist.
The
the
volcanoes.
Volcanoes as well. So if they could get back to form, I to go to Will's point, as we should probably wrap this up and then just give our final thoughts. I wish that game happened without the tomfoolery, because
That would have been a good game.
I will I don't know if I'll die on this hill. I guess I'll fight in a court case that doesn't matter. But the Sin City chaos that year, the Sin City, yeah, that was I was just trying to get the joke out.
It was a nice jab.
The Sin, I'm
It's a
not
low
not a
blow.
jab,
Trying to keep
just,
the gloves up.
well, my bad. It wasn't meant to be a jab. It was just kind of like an insider's joke, kind of like behind the scenes. But for the football that the Chaos were playing that year, I
Yeah.
think that they were a much better team than the team that lost the Insomniacs in the Final Four. And they would have proven so if they found a way to beat that Watchmen team, because that Watchmen team was also a really formidable opponent. And what's up, Mel? And it's a shame
on,
that
man?
the winner of that game didn't get a chance to continue on in the playoffs, because they had a shot at the championship. If whoever won that game had a real shot at winning the East and holding up the hardware.
Do you think that they were good enough to beat BIC as constructed that year?
The Chaos? I don't know. I mean, the thing is that you don't have a comp. You don't have a film where you could say, all right, I've seen these guys play these guys, and this is how fast these guys
Well,
look
and
next to these
I
same
think what we're
components, right?
talking about here is I think you would agree. What we're talking about here is the fact that them playing the Watchmen all
We
four
would have had the
quarters,
comp.
we would have had a comp.
Right. That's what I'm saying. If we saw them play the Watchmen and they played the Watchmen, we could have said, all right, this is what they look like against the Watchmen. This is what hypothetically they would look like, because I've seen BIC play the Watchmen. This is right. So that's what we all wanted. It would have proved itself out. All right. I don't. I think that my take would be is I don't think that they would have been able to beat BIC that year, but I
Mhm.
do think that they would have been able to beat the Animals or the Watchmen. But
Well, I guess we'll
never
never know.
know. And guys just have to figure out how to be adults in this crazy United States of America. But if not the politicians, then it has to be the commoners that have couth and are reasonable humans. But party shots, guys.
What you got?
It was a very entertaining banter. Certainly want to thank CP3 for hopping in before he was being daddy and cooking his kids' vegetables. But I mean, some very great takes on covering Offensive Player of the Year, games of the year per se, and just all these amazing players that make our league go, and thus since why we have a podcast talking about these players. So definitely want to thank you guys for holding down the fort while I was taking care of some stuff at home. And yeah, that's all I got.
Chris, what you got for us?
Well, Doug, before you came on, Derek was on for a little bit. Had Aiden on for a little bit. I want you guys to kind of think about something. I always told him he'd be a good dad, and the one thing that is the acronym of his name is actually
Dad.
Derek Allen Duncan, so he is dad. But anyway, my final thought is actually the fact that I can't get enough of football. So I'm looking forward to the NFL, the NCAA. But after those are done, of course, the place that I always come back to that I consider home is the A7FL. So I am anxiously awaiting the return of some football. I'll take what I can get right now, and that is the NCAA and pros. But you know what? I'm glad to still be on here with my boys and being able to talk a little football.
And I'll leave you guys with a discussion of the Offensive Player of the Year. We really focused in on Kason Campbell. Since his rookie year, guys, he's been one of the guys we all could see the talent. And according to Big Rob, sometimes ended up in disappointment. One of the top defenders in the league when he chooses to be. Obviously, this year he showed the type of wide receiver he is. But I think the lesson learned is that, especially in the A7FL, but in any endeavor you take on, those moments of failure can turn into triumphs if you learn the lessons and push through the obstacles. Because for me, Kason Campbell has always been a good wide receiver. But this season, he may go down as one of the all-time greats in this league. And he deserves all the accolades and praise. When we talk maybe next week, maybe about Defensive Player of the Year, we'll give somebody else. All the guys that got honorable mentions, nice pat on the back. But Kason was better this year, sorry. And, gentlemen, until next time, it was a pleasure. And everybody else that wasn't mentioned today, you guys had trash seasons like me. So step up your game.
For Derek, for CP3, for Corey, for Chris, I'm Double A. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week on the other side of the ball. Take care, guys.